Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, your mind racing with anxiety, fear, or loneliness? It's a feeling that can seem impossible to shake, like there's a weight pressing down on you that you can't escape. Maybe you're facing an uncertain future, a broken relationship, or just the overwhelming weight of life's demands. In those moments, it can feel like you're standing alone in a dark valley with no way out. But what if I told you there's a passage in the Bible that speaks directly to those very moments of anxiety and isolation? What if there's a timeless truth waiting for you in the middle of your struggle? Psalm 23 is one of the most beloved passages in all of Scripture, and for good reason. It was written by King David, who, despite being a mighty king, experienced some of the darkest moments in life, moments of fear, failure, and loneliness. Yet, through it all, he was able to trust in a God who never left his side, a God who walked with him through every trial and every valley. In this psalm, David doesn't just talk about God's power, he talks about God's love, care, and faithfulness. It's a reminder that no matter how anxious, lost, or alone we may feel, God is with us, offering comfort, provision, and peace. As we walk through Psalm 23 together, I want you to see it not just as a comforting prayer for a time of calm, but as a living, breathing truth that can carry you through your toughest moments, whether you're struggling with anxiety, dealing with loneliness, or feeling lost in the midst of uncertainty. This psalm was written for moments just like this. It's more than just beautiful words. It's a promise from God Himself that He is with you, guiding you, restoring you, and giving you peace. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the powerful promises of Psalm 23. And I believe that as we explore these words together, you'll find comfort and hope in the middle of whatever you're facing. So, if you're feeling anxious or alone right now, know this: Psalm 23 speaks to you. It was written for moments like this, and I'm excited to share with you how this ancient psalm still speaks to us today. Psalm 23 was written by David, a man who knew both the heights of joy and the depths of despair. He was a shepherd before he was a king, and in that role, he learned firsthand what it meant to guide, protect, and care for a flock. But David also experienced some of the greatest trials anyone could face. He was pursued by enemies, faced the weight of his own mistakes, and at times felt completely abandoned. Yet, despite all the turmoil, he was able to write one of the most comforting passages in the Bible. The psalm is not just a statement of his relationship with God. It's a declaration of trust in God's ability to provide, protect, and restore. David's life was filled with moments of deep anxiety and fear. But through it all, he learned that God was not distant or indifferent. God was his shepherd. And when David calls God my shepherd, he's not just using a metaphor. He's speaking from personal experience. He knows the shepherd's role intimately. A shepherd is there to lead the sheep, to guide them to green pastures and still waters, to protect them from harm, and to comfort them when they are in danger. David understood that God wasn't just some far-off figure, but was present with him, guiding him, protecting him, and leading him through the darkest valleys of life. This understanding of God as a shepherd is incredibly powerful, especially when we are feeling anxious, lost, or alone. The image of God as our shepherd speaks directly to our need for guidance, security, and peace. When we feel unsure about the future or overwhelmed by life's challenges, we can take comfort in knowing that we are not navigating these moments on our own. God is with us, guiding us, protecting us, and offering us peace. When we read, "The Lord is my shepherd," it's not just a comforting phrase. It's an invitation to trust in God's leadership and care. It's an invitation to surrender our anxiety and fears to Him and to recognize that we are not left to figure things out on our own. God is actively involved in our lives, caring for us in ways that we often don't even see. In times of fear or uncertainty, this verse reminds us that God is not distant but intimately involved in our journey, leading us through the highs and lows of life. "I shall not want." These words are profound when you stop to really think about them. David, who knew what it was like to lack, to face dangers, and to struggle, declares that because God is his shepherd, he lacks nothing. This doesn't mean that we won't face hardships or moments when we feel like we're in need. It means that with God as our shepherd, we have everything we need to face whatever comes our way. In times of anxiety, it's easy to feel like there's something missing, like we're lacking something essential to our peace or security. We think if we just had a little more money, more success, more recognition, or more stability, then we'd feel at ease. But Psalm 23 challenges that mindset. When God is our shepherd, we are not lacking anything that truly matters. He provides for us in ways that go beyond what we can see or understand. Whether it's the emotional support we need, the comfort in our sorrow, or the peace amidst the storm, God provides. This doesn't mean that life will always be easy or that we won't experience hardship. The difference is that when God is our shepherd, we have the confidence that He will provide exactly what we need in every situation. It's a reminder that God knows our needs even before we ask, and He promises to take care of us. This promise isn't just for a time of calm, but it's for the times when we feel like we are lacking, when anxiety sets in, and when we wonder if we will ever have enough. God's provision goes beyond material things. It's about His presence, His peace, His love, and His strength. When we truly grasp this truth, it changes the way we approach life's challenges. We stop viewing our problems as insurmountable obstacles and begin to see them as opportunities for God's provision to be revealed. We can walk into any situation knowing that, as our shepherd, God is already providing everything we need to handle it. Whether we are in times of abundance or scarcity, we can trust that God is giving us everything we need for the moment we're in. And this brings peace to our anxious hearts, knowing that we are cared for in ways that are far greater than we can imagine. This promise of provision can bring incredible peace when we feel like we are lacking or uncertain about the future. Life can often make us feel like we don't have enough. But God's word tells us that in Him we have everything we need. When we trust Him, we are able to rest in the assurance that His provision is sufficient for every moment. And when we rest in that truth, we experience a peace that the world cannot give. When we talk about the idea of, "He makes me lie down in green pastures," it's not just about physical rest. It's about spiritual rest, emotional rest, and finding peace in the presence of God. In our busy, chaotic world, rest often feels like a luxury we can't afford. We're constantly moving, striving, worrying about the next thing, and that anxiety takes its toll. We find ourselves mentally exhausted, emotionally drained, and physically worn out. Yet, in the midst of all this, God calls us to rest. Psalm 23 reminds us that God, as our shepherd, leads us to green pastures, a place of abundance, peace, and restoration. This imagery of green pastures is not just a pastoral scene. It's a deep invitation to rest in God's care and provision. But rest is more than just a break from work or a quiet weekend. True rest is found in the presence of God. It's the kind of rest that calms your soul, that helps you step back and realize that everything doesn't have to be fixed right now. When we feel overwhelmed and anxious, God invites us to come and lie down in the green pastures He provides. He wants us to stop striving, to stop trying to handle everything on our own, and to simply rest in His sufficiency. This rest isn't about escaping our responsibilities. It's about trusting God in the midst of them. It's about acknowledging that He is in control and that, as our shepherd, He will provide what we need. God doesn't just want to be a distant figure who helps when things go wrong. He wants to be our refuge and strength in every moment. His presence is the place where we find the ultimate rest. It's in His presence that we can lay down our worries, our fears, and our anxiety, knowing that He has everything under control. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle of life, to think that if we just work a little harder, or if we just figure out a little more, we'll finally experience peace. But true peace and rest don't come from more effort or more control. They come from surrender. When we lie down in green pastures, we are surrendering our own striving and choosing to trust in God's provision. He leads us to a place of peace, where we can rest in His faithfulness, knowing that we are cared for, loved, and provided for. But what about when we feel like we can't rest? What about when our minds are racing and the worries won't stop? This is where Psalm 23 speaks deeply into our struggles. God doesn't just invite us to lie down in green pastures. He also leads us beside still waters. Still waters are a picture of peace and calm, a place where the noise of the world fades away, and we can hear God's voice clearly. When we are anxious, the noise in our minds can feel deafening, but God calls us to a place of stillness, where we can find the peace that surpasses understanding. God isn't just leading us to physical rest. He's leading us to soul-deep restoration. He is offering us a peace that the world cannot give. Even in the midst of our anxiety, we can find rest in Him. This is not a rest that comes from the absence of problems, but a rest that comes from knowing that God is with us through every storm. And just as a shepherd leads his sheep beside still waters, God leads us into His presence, where we can find the peace that calms our troubled hearts in a world that constantly demands more of us. Psalm 23 offers us a refuge. It calls us to stop striving, to stop trying to solve everything on our own, and to find our rest in the shepherd's care. The green pastures and still waters are not just a distant promise. They are available to us now. All we need to do is receive them. When we allow ourselves to rest in God's provision, we are embracing the peace He offers, and that peace will guard our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Now, let's look at the powerful line, "He restores my soul." This part of the psalm is so deeply comforting, especially in times of emotional exhaustion, anxiety, and uncertainty. We all go through moments in life when our souls feel weary, when the weight of our circumstances begins to take a toll on us, leaving us drained, empty, and vulnerable. We may be carrying the weight of grief, disappointment, failure, or fear. In these moments, we need more than just physical rest. We need a deep soul restoration that can only come from God. God doesn't just restore our circumstances. He restores our very souls. The idea of restoration here is not just about fixing something that's broken. It's about making it whole again, bringing it back to its original purpose and beauty. When our souls are broken or weary, God steps in and gently restores us. This is a promise we can hold on to in the darkest of times. God will restore us. He will give us the strength we need to face what lies ahead, and He will breathe new life into our weary souls. Restoration happens in God's presence. It's in His presence that we find the healing we need, whether it's emotional healing from past wounds, spiritual healing from feelings of inadequacy, or mental healing from the anxiety that overwhelms us. God knows the depths of our souls, and He knows exactly what we need to restore us. The comfort of knowing that God restores our souls is incredibly powerful. It means that even in our weakest moments, we can trust that God is at work, healing us and making us whole again. This restoration doesn't always happen immediately. It's often a process, one that involves surrendering our hurts and fears to God and allowing Him to work in us over time. Sometimes, we don't even know what we need to be restored. We may just feel lost or broken, but God knows exactly how to bring healing. We can trust Him to restore us in His perfect timing. And the beauty of this restoration is that it doesn't just fix what's broken, it also strengthens us for what's ahead. When God restores us, He doesn't just make us feel better temporarily. He equips us to move forward with greater strength and faith. Our souls are renewed and ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. This is the power of God's restoration. It equips us not just to survive, but to thrive in His grace. When we are restored by God, we are not the same as we were before. We are stronger, more resilient, and more deeply connected to Him. Our faith grows, and our trust in God deepens because we've experienced His healing touch. This restoration is not just for a moment, it's for a lifetime. God is always in the process of restoring us, making us more like Him, and preparing us for the future He has planned for us. In these moments of anxiety, loneliness, or uncertainty, we can rest in the truth that God is actively at work in our lives. He is leading us beside still waters, restoring our souls, and offering us the peace that only He can provide. Even when life feels overwhelming, we can trust that God is with us, leading us to places of rest, healing, and renewal. And as we allow ourselves to receive His care and restoration, we find the strength and peace to move forward, knowing that we are held in the arms of a loving shepherd who will never let us go. As we continue to reflect on Psalm 23, we come to one of the most powerful lines in the entire psalm. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. This line speaks directly to those of us who are facing deep fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. The valley of the shadow of death is a metaphor for the difficult and dark seasons of life. It could represent the loss of a loved one, a health crisis, financial struggles, or any kind of hardship that brings fear and uncertainty into our hearts. Life can sometimes feel like walking through a valley, narrow, dark, and filled with unknown dangers. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by fear in these moments, wondering if we'll make it through or if we'll ever experience peace again. But here, David reminds us that even in those dark valleys, we need not fear. Why? Because God is with us. He doesn't promise that we won't face valleys, but He promises that He will be there with us, guiding us through the darkness, the shadow of death. While it may loom over us, does not have to hold us in fear, because God is greater than any shadow. The shadow of death only has power over us if we allow it to. But when we trust in God's presence, that shadow fades into the background. The valley of the shadow of death is a very real experience for many people, and it can feel suffocating. But Psalm 23 assures us that even when we face the darkest moments of life, we are never alone. God is right there with us, walking alongside us through the darkness. His presence is a comfort and a source of strength. The fear we feel in those moments can be overwhelming, but God's promise is greater. When we choose to trust in His presence, we can face even the hardest of situations without being consumed by fear. This doesn't mean that we won't feel the weight of our circumstances or experience fear. It simply means that we don't have to let that fear control us. Fear, when unchecked, can paralyze us. But God's presence breaks that hold. When we trust that He is with us, fear begins to lose its grip on us. God's love casts out fear, and His perfect love assures us that no matter how deep the valley may be, He is walking with us every step of the way. When we are walking through these valleys, we can remind ourselves that we are not alone. God is near. His rod and staff are there to protect and guide us. We are His sheep, and He will lead us through the darkness to a place of light and safety. Trusting in God's presence in the valley of the shadow of death is not about pretending the darkness isn't there. It's about recognizing that God's light is greater than any darkness we face. In these moments, we are called to trust in His protection and care. The rod and staff mentioned in Psalm 23 are tools of the shepherd. The rod is used to protect the sheep from predators, while the staff is used to guide them along the right path. Both represent God's active role in our lives, guiding and protecting us through life's difficulties. When we walk through the valley, we don't have to wonder if God is still with us. His rod and staff are a constant reminder that He is leading us and protecting us. Even in the darkest of times, we are not alone. This doesn't mean that the valley will always be easy to walk through, but it does mean that God will never leave us in our fear. He will guide us through the storm, leading us toward peace and restoration. And when we are on the other side, we will look back and see that God was with us the entire time. As we move forward in this psalm, we also come to the comforting truth that God's presence is always with us, even in the moments when we feel most alone. "You are with me," David declares. This simple phrase is a powerful reminder that no matter what we face, God is always near. In the midst of loneliness, isolation, or uncertainty, we can rest in the truth that God is not distant or far off. He is with us. He is present in every moment, every trial, every fear. Loneliness can feel like one of the most isolating experiences, when we are surrounded by people but still feel empty inside. It's easy to think that no one understands or cares. But Psalm 23 reminds us that God is always with us. His presence is a constant source of comfort, and He is always available to us. When we feel abandoned by others or overwhelmed by life's challenges, we can draw near to God and find the companionship, comfort, and peace that we need. This promise of God's presence is one of the most comforting aspects of Psalm 23. God is not some distant figure watching from afar. He is with us, in the midst of our struggles, our fears, and our doubts. He walks beside us, offering His comfort and strength. And because He is with us, we have no reason to fear. His presence is a refuge, a safe place where we can find peace and hope. When we're feeling alone, it's easy to forget that God is right there with us. But the truth is, He is always near. The psalmist David knew that God's presence was the key to his peace and comfort. When he was in the fields as a shepherd, when he was on the run from enemies, when he was overwhelmed with his own mistakes, he knew that God was with him, guiding him, protecting him, and comforting him. And that same truth applies to us today. No matter where we are, no matter how isolated or anxious we may feel, God is with us. When we remember that God is with us, we find the courage to face our fears. We don't have to fight our battles alone. We have a God who is walking with us, offering His strength, His guidance, and His protection. The God who is with us is the same God who parted the Red Sea, who healed the sick, who raised the dead, and who conquered sin and death on the cross. His presence in our lives is not a passive one. He is actively at work, protecting us, guiding us, and restoring us. God's presence is also a source of comfort. In moments of loneliness or anxiety, when the world feels overwhelming and we feel disconnected from everyone around us, we can find solace in knowing that God is always near. He is close to the brokenhearted, Psalm 34:18, and He will never leave or forsake us, Hebrews 13:5. His love for us is unwavering, and His presence offers a peace that the world cannot provide. When we rest in the truth that God is with us, we find the strength to keep going, even when we feel weak. His presence gives us the assurance that we are not alone in our struggles, and it empowers us to keep moving forward with faith and confidence. No matter what we face, we can trust that God is walking with us, leading us to victory, and guiding us to the peace that only He can provide. God's presence is the greatest comfort we could ever experience, and it's available to us in every moment of our lives. When we face fear, loneliness, or anxiety, we can turn to Him and know that He is with us, offering His peace and strength. Let this truth sink deep into your heart. You are never alone. God is with you, and His presence is the key to your peace, your strength, and your victory. As we continue with Psalm 23, we arrive at one of the most comforting and assuring truths in this passage. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. To many of us, these may sound like just some ancient imagery, but they carry profound meaning. The rod and staff are tools that a shepherd uses, but in this context, they represent two crucial aspects of God's relationship with us: His protection and His guidance. Both are essential when we feel anxious, lost, or uncertain. The rod, in the hands of a shepherd, is a tool for protection. It's used to ward off predators, to defend the sheep from harm. In our lives, the rod represents God's protection. When we are walking through difficult times, when we feel under attack, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual, God is there, wielding His rod to keep us safe. This protection doesn't mean that we will never face difficulties or challenges. Rather, it means that we can trust God to shield us from harm and defend us in the battle. It's a reminder that even when we feel vulnerable, God is always watching over us, guarding us with His might and strength. The staff, on the other hand, is used for guidance. It's what the shepherd uses to gently lead the sheep along the right path, to guide them away from danger, and to help them when they go astray. The staff represents God's loving guidance in our lives. When we're feeling lost or uncertain about our next steps, God is there with His staff, leading us in the right direction. He knows where the still waters are, where the green pastures lie, and He wants to lead us to them. His guidance is not harsh or demanding. It's gentle and compassionate, always seeking to bring us closer to Him and closer to the abundant life He promises. The rod and staff together symbolize the fullness of God's care for us. He not only protects us from the dangers that threaten us, but He also gently leads us along the path He has for us. In our moments of anxiety, when we don't know where to turn, we can find comfort in the fact that God is both our protector and our guide. His protection means we are safe, and His guidance means we are not alone in our journey. The shepherd's care is complete. It covers every need, from the darkest valley to the most peaceful pasture. And in that care, we find comfort. When we are walking through the tough times, when we feel anxious or fearful, the rod and staff remind us that we are not left to wander aimlessly. God is with us every step of the way. He is leading us, guiding us with love, and protecting us from what might harm us. This doesn't mean that life will be free from pain, but it means that God is actively involved in our lives, shielding us and leading us to peace. Now, as we come to the final verse of this beautiful psalm, we are reminded of the ultimate promise. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. In the midst of life's battles and struggles, God is not just watching from a distance. He is actively preparing a place of provision and peace for us. In the face of opposition, in the midst of our struggles, God invites us to feast at His table. This is a powerful picture of God's care and provision. Even when things around us seem uncertain, God provides. Even in the presence of our enemies, He is offering us peace, abundance, and comfort. This verse speaks to the profound peace that comes from knowing that God is with us, even in the toughest situations. This verse also represents the invitation God gives to enjoy His presence. Just as a host prepares a feast for guests, God prepares a place of peace for us, where we can rest in His provision and care. This table is not just a symbol of physical provision, but a spiritual one. It is a place where we can find nourishment for our souls, strength for our weary hearts, and hope in the midst of despair. When life feels overwhelming, when we feel like we are facing opposition or fear, God invites us to sit at His table, to feast on His peace, His presence, and His love. It's a beautiful reminder that God's provision is never limited to what we can see with our eyes. His peace, His strength, and His love are available to us, even when the world around us is full of uncertainty. As we sit at this table, we are reminded that God's goodness and mercy are following us. The psalm ends with this comforting declaration: "Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." This promise assures us that no matter where we go, God's goodness and mercy are right behind us, walking with us, protecting us, and providing for us. Even when we face trials and difficulties, we can rest in the knowledge that God's goodness is always with us. His mercy is never ending, and it follows us every day, giving us hope and strength to face whatever comes. This doesn't mean that life will be without challenges, but it does mean that we are not alone. We are not abandoned to face life's difficulties on our own. God's goodness and mercy are with us, following us, supporting us through every season, and in that, we find peace. The final promise of Psalm 23 is that we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is a promise of eternal security in God's presence. No matter what we face in this life, we have the assurance that we belong to God and will dwell in His presence forever. This promise of eternity with God is the ultimate source of comfort. When we are anxious or feeling alone, we can remember that we are part of God's eternal family, and that nothing, absolutely nothing, can separate us from His love. Psalm 23 is not just a passage for peaceful moments or for when things are going well. It is for the anxious times, the lonely nights, the moments when we feel overwhelmed by the weight of life. In those moments, we can find comfort in knowing that God is with us. He is our shepherd, our protector, our provider, and our guide. He leads us beside still waters, restores our souls, and prepares a table of peace for us, even in the midst of our enemies. He walks with us through the valleys of life, offering us His strength, His guidance, and His peace. As you face your own challenges, remember that Psalm 23 is for you. It is a reminder that no matter what you face, God is with you, providing for you, guiding you, and offering you rest. And as you trust in Him, His goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life, and you will dwell in His presence forever. So, let go of your anxiety, release your fear, and rest in the truth that God is with you. He is your shepherd, and He will never leave you or forsake you. As we close, I want to remind you that Psalm 23 is more than just a comforting passage we recite in peaceful moments. It is a living promise for the times when we are feeling anxious, afraid, or alone. Every verse of this psalm speaks to our deepest needs, whether we are struggling with fear, longing for peace, or seeking rest. It paints a picture of a God who is not distant or indifferent, but one who walks closely with us through every season of life. He is our shepherd, and with Him, we lack nothing. His protection, His guidance, His provision. These are not just words on a page. They are real, tangible truths for us to embrace every day. If you find yourself in a valley right now, remember that you are not alone. God is with you, walking beside you, offering His comfort and strength. When you feel overwhelmed by anxiety or fear, know that He is your guide, leading you to still waters and green pastures, offering rest for your soul. And even when life feels uncertain or you're facing opposition, remember that God is preparing a table before you. His presence is your refuge, your peace, and your joy. No matter what is going on around you, you don't have to fight through the darkness alone. God's goodness and mercy are following you, offering you His love and care, day after day. And when the battles of this life are over, His promise is that you will dwell in His house forever, secure, loved, and at peace. This is the ultimate hope we have in Christ. So take heart. Let Psalm 23 be your anchor in moments of fear, your reminder of God's presence when you feel alone, and your call to rest in His provision and care. Whatever you're facing today, trust that He is with you, guiding you, and leading you to the peace that only He can give. In the midst of anxiety, in the shadow of fear, God is your shepherd, and you are never alone.